Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of the Great Convos podcast, where we always say, whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great convos. I'm your co-host, Roger Caesar, and that gentleman over there.
Well, hello, Roger. I'm Alexandre. I'm Matt. Roger, let me start by saying happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
It sounded like a question because it was yesterday that you celebrated your 52nd birthday.
Yes, I got off of Highway 51 and entered Route 52. And I'm very happy about that. Thank you so much, my friend. And to all of our loyal listeners, thank you for being here today with us. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're always here enjoying the great combos with us. And we thank you so much for that. Man, it's crazy though, Alex. I mean, yesterday I was celebrating another year around the sun, as they say, and yet today it feels a little somber because we are commemorating one of the worst attacks that has happened to the Jewish in Israel since maybe the Holocaust, I would say. And
yeah, absolutely.
I'm going from a high to a low right now. So I mean, wow.
Well, yeah, let's get it right into it, Roger. In fact, yeah.
How are you feeling?
Well, how am I feeling? Look, Roger, I appreciate your title today, the empathy guy. You're feeling empathetic toward the Jewish people today, right? My title is the remembering guy. As with any tragedy, it's important to remember. And 1 year ago today, on 7th of October 2023, it was the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Thousands of armed individuals entered Israel from the Gaza Strip and started killing, beheading, burning, raping as many people as they could find. And they did not stop until they were stopped. So apologies to our viewers and listeners. Yes, it's difficult to hear. It's difficult to say. And I got to tell you, Roger, at this time last year, it was also very difficult to watch. As I was watching the images that were shared by the perpetrators themselves.
I know.
Because they were celebrating their attacks. As they were killing and beheading people, they were online celebrating and showing the world what they had done, as if it was something that was meant to be celebrated.
Look, the reality is I know that probably about a year ago, we came on this podcast nervous to talk about this. You remember that?
I do.
We sat here and in the background, we were wondering and contemplating whether we should talk about this. Was it too early in our journey with our podcast to get into something so severe? And we both agreed that, okay, we're gonna talk about it, but we're gonna deal with it from a surface level and just let the conversation go where it may. But today, it's now a year that we have been dealing with this, and I think it's time for us to have this conversation. And I want to say this before we even get started. To our loyal listeners and those who are here today, maybe for the first time, Alex and I like to have our conversations, and we love being able to discuss things, share our opinions on ideas. We also love it when our listeners get involved and share their views as well. But we always ask you to be respectful and to understand that this is a platform where we want to be able to have open dialogue, great conversations, and that you will be able to take it away take away this conversation and go and talk in your communities and your areas of friends and others. So please be respectful for that as well.
Yeah.
Now, Alex,
Thanks, Roger. And the title of today's episode is October 7, 1 year later, Searching for Clarity in the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it took us a while to get the title right, according to what we wanted to share. Searching for clarity. Now, because it seems like there is to me, it seems like some clarity is missing. So here's a question that we can ask. When Hamas and their allies invaded Israel, killed about 1,200 individuals, and kidnapped about 250, 100 of which are still in Gaza. We don't know how many are alive, how many are dead.
Right.
When that happened, the initial reaction of, I think, most people was horror.
Mm-hmm.
But the initial reaction of other people, I don't know how many, was celebration. Mm-hmm. And here's where it gets particularly difficult for, I think, for any sensible people in the world, but maybe particularly for Israel and for the Jews across the world. Imagine, Roger, you're originally from Grenada.
Yep.
Yeah. So imagine if there was a similar attack, a carnage, a massacre in Grenada. You would immediately feel attached to the people and you would mourn, correct?
Of course.
Now imagine if the following day there were some rallies all across the world, not only celebrating the attack, but also calling for more massacres. This is what has been going on for the past year. At the same time, during the same weekend that the Jewish communities across the countries, I'll speak for Canada here, across Canada are commemorating, remembering, memorializing the attacks, remembering the people who were whose lives were cut short, and calling for the release of the hostages. At the same time, the same weekend, there are people celebrating the attack. In fact, in Vancouver, there's an organization that had a celebration, and what did they say? They wrote this. The attack on October 7 set the stage for a liberated Palestine from the river to the sea once and for all. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what the river and the sea are,
explain that to our listeners.
The river is the Jordan River. It's generally what separates Israel from Jordan to the east of the country. And the sea is the Mediterranean Sea. It's what's to the west of Israel. So what is in between the river and the sea? It's Israel. So when they say the slogan that is repeated again and again in these rallies, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, what does it mean? It effectively means the eradication of the state of Israel. And that means the annihilation of the Jewish people, or at the very least, to be kind, to be generous, the dispersion of the Jews. If you want to be generous to them. So this is what we're hearing. Right. Sometimes every week in some big cities, there's rallies calling for the destruction of Israel and the death of Jews all across the world. It's very, at the very least, it's tiring, Roger, to hear this all the time. And there is no other. Okay, wait, I'll say this otherwise, differently. Try to find another country whose very existence is put into question. Not just by a handful of people, but by countries and people across the world. I can't find one.
And I understand, and I feel your pain right now in this moment. Alex, when we were off air, I said to you that, you know what, as a Black person, we have had our fair share of atrocities in our history, and know that, and you made the example of if it happened in Grenada, how I'd feel. Of course, I would be banding together with my people so I can clearly understand you being Jewish, how you feel. And I understand, and then this is where I call myself the empathy guy, because I can get it from that perspective. But there are people that are even within your own group, Jewish people, that are not, and may not be behind you the way you are with regards to this. And how do you feel about those that are like, I mean, listen, we've had it in ours,
Yeah.
in our culture, we have it as well, where we have people who say, well, you know what, hey, it's not happening to me, so why am I getting involved? Right? And I'm wondering, from that perspective, what about you? How do you feel when you hear that? And we talked about this.
Yeah. How do I feel? There are some words I should not say out loud, I think. I guess I'm quizzical, like people, because there are some Jewish individuals who justify the massacre of October 7.
Mm-hmm.
And just that, I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and I'm I can understand, I can understand, um, you know, a fundamentalist from Hamas trying to justify the massacre of October 7. I can understand that, but it's difficult to understand a Jewish individual who would have the same cause for celebration or justification for the October 7 massacre.
But what would be the reason they would? And I may be asking you a hard question that you may not be able to understand, but what do you think would be the reason that this would be happening, that there would be some of those that would actually justify it? And
I
take
don't
your
know.
time, friend.
Brain, brainwash. Um, uh, there's actually a term, and some of my viewers, I see Selena right here. Maybe she can help us with the term. There's a term for individuals in the Jewish community who help the enemy. There were some Jews during the Second World War, during the Holocaust, that helped the Nazis, thinking, well, at least I'm not a victim. At least if I help them, they won't get me. Turns out they were killed just later on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's strange to say the least. But I mean, it's a phenomenon. I do believe that Jews who are in favor of Hamas or apologists for the terrorists, um, they are a minority. I would say part of the problem. And we're searching for clarity. I don't know how to explain that. Other more sophisticated minds could do it better than I could.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm I don't know the full context of your history or the history of where this all came about. And I know that when we were talking behind the scenes, you said this would take an hour for me to go through the entire thing, but maybe just a portion to let those who, like some of our listeners who aren't aware. We have Kathy who was asking, was literally saying, I may not know everything that comes with the history of it. Maybe if you can just condense it for me and just give a little bit.
Right. Well, Roger, in the description of our episode, we wrote is the conflict is simpler or more complicated than it appears.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's both. It's more complicated because there is a lot of history. Kathy mentions I didn't really understand much of the history before this.
Mm-hmm.
And it would take weeks, months, maybe years of studying the history of the region to truly understand the context and really understand what's going on. So that's how it's more complicated, because it's not just since 2023 that this has been going on. It's not even only since 1990 when Hamas was created. It's not even since 1964 when the Palestine Liberation Organization was created, before there was any mention of a Palestinian state.
Right.
And it's not even only since 1948, the creation of the rebirth of the state of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
We could say it's been going on for hundreds or thousands of years. So it's complicated. And for that, we would need hours to discuss. But it's also much more simpler than we might be led to believe. Why do I say that? Because on the one side, there is a people, the Jewish people, who have a state, the state of Israel, who wish to live in peace with their neighbors. And those are the words that are written in the Declaration of Independence. And it's also what we've seen as a modus operandi in the past few years, making peace with the Arab neighbors in the region, like the United Arab Emirates signed a peace treaty with makes peace and recognizes Israel. So that's on one side,
Right.
a nation wishing, striving, working for peace. And on the other side is an organization, in this case particularly Hamas, who not only doesn't recognize the legitimacy of the state of Israel, but wants to destroy it. So it's simple, because on one side you've got a country wanting to live in peace, and on the other side you've got individuals who want them dead, who want to destroy Israel. So Israel is asking for peace, and their counterparts are asking for no Israel. In this case, it's hard to find balance. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know. And but what about the other side? We've talked about it from your perspective, but what about the other side? Is there any legitimacy in how they're feeling in this whole thing? And again, I need you to take away the emotion from it for a second. And could you see any legitimacy on why Hamas would do this?
I said earlier, I can understand, but there's no legitimacy to it.
Okay.
Like, even asking the question, it seems strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that justify the attack on October 7th? No.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
Is it justified to go to the streets and protest every week? Yes. Peaceful protest? Yes. Is it justified for the Palestinian people to ask for their own state with recognized borders with Israel and being recognized by the nations of the world? Yes, absolutely. Yes. And that would be great.
Yeah.
But October 7th? No. That's like, it's not only crossing the line, it's so far across the line that it should be recognized universally as something that is never justifiable.
Right. And I know that the Prime Minister of Israel has renamed this war the Resurrection War. Before it was the Swords of Iron, and I don't know why it was renamed or what the story behind that is, but again, we're sitting here and 1 year later, how do you see this coming to an end, if it even will? What would need to happen? I mean, like if I look at from my perspective, and I've seen so many times that things have happened, it would take not only sitting down, but it would take people to understand each other and understand who we are and the overall value of it. And I know that sounds cliche, but what, God, this is such a tough subject because you don't know the back end of it, like the real back end of all of this stuff. We can sit here and we can talk about it till the cows come home, but what actually can change this? What is it that would need to change all of this from happening so that we can move away from it? Because this nation, and we'll talk about this from a perspective of that area has gone through so many different battles over time.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the city of Jerusalem was completely destroyed 9 times throughout history.
Wow. Wow.
And rebuilt. Why? Because the Jews have always had enemies. The Romans, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks. And now there's a new enemy. And by the way, the enemy is not the Palestinians. And I should be clear on this.
Mm-hmm.
The innocent civilians who are victims of this war, it's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no like celebration. Let me be clear with this. Okay, this is another difference between Israel and Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
There's no celebration on the Israeli side when Palestinians, when innocent Palestinians are killed. There's no celebration. And if there are, those people who celebrate are shunned. There is celebration on the other side when Israelis and Jews are massacred. So when will this end? As you say, it's hard. I wish that it could. Look, on October 6, 2023, you could have asked me that same question. I would have said, yeah, I think maybe within our lifetime we'll see relative peace in the region. On October 7, October 8, and up to now, it's much more difficult to be really optimist. But I still wish to answer the question: when will there be peace? The Prime Minister of Israel in the 60s and 70s, Golda Meir, I'm going to paraphrase her words here. There will be peace when the other side loves their children more than they hate us.
Wow. 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 Powerful word there.
Hamas took over the Gaza Strip in 2007. And from then on, they started not only arming to get ready for these sorts of attacks, but they prepared the next generation to hold those arms. They took over the schools and preschools, summer camps, to put into the minds of the children that the enemy are the Israelites, are the Jews, and that they must be killed. There are some videos, you can find this online, it's absolutely heartbreaking, where you see, for example, on a TV channel, you see a big mascot, like looks like Mickey Mouse, who says, oh, let's go kill the Jews, take their car knives and slit their throats. Oh, yay! Wow. That's what Hamas has given the Gazans and the Palestinians. What will it take for peace? That is certainly not the answer. The removal of Hamas is necessary for any prospect of peace. The return of the remaining hostages is absolutely essential for any kind of peace talks.
Mm-hmm.
The refusal to recognize the state of Israel as a homeland for the Jewish people, that refusal is the main obstacle to peace.
Right. Alex, I can only again wish that things change. Truly, truly change. I maybe it won't, maybe it will, maybe a bit, maybe none at all. But I can only hope that for a lack of better terms, cooler heads will prevail. And we can find a way to find peace in this region over time. I will leave the last words to you before we close off, my friend.
So I'll try to be a little more optimistic here. There's a war going on in the Middle East between Israel and actually it's on 7 fronts. It's not just Gaza. There's also Lebanon. There's the Houthis in Yemen, and Iran is attacking directly as well. The Iranian regime is attacking directly as well. So it's far away from here. So I can understand why a lot of people who don't feel directly involved or even indirectly involved, why they don't understand. So I understand why there's misunderstanding here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching this and you would like to know more, get in contact directly with me. It will be an honor for me to guide you, to help you understand what's going on and what has been going on. And perhaps through our conversation, this is not just to help you, but this might be to help me as well, because sometimes I'm looking for hope. It's something that's been missing for the past year, for hope and optimism. It's difficult for me to be optimistic regarding what's going on in our communities. And it would be nice for a change to feel a little more solidarity towards our community. So this is my word. This is not me asking you to, I'm not only asking people to know more about what's going on. I'm asking you for help. Help me feel like we're not alone. Like we've got allies. That would be nice.
Well, Alex, you're not alone here. I'll tell you that much. And not only with just me, but many of our listeners who are here listening. I'm just looking at a lot of the comments that have been coming through here right now. You are not alone, my friend, and we are hoping so much that things will turn around. I guess I will just end with this. I thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This is not one of those podcasts that or episodes where we're happy-go-lucky leaving, but I hope that you will continue, as we've always said, the conversation in your communities, amongst your friends, and talk about this. And maybe, like Alex said, just talking about it will find a way to give more answers, more hope, more opportunities for peace. We thank you for listening today. As we always say, whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great combos. Keep talking, everyone. Have a great week. Thank you.
Brother.
Love you, man.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone. Have a good day.